On aura 3 invités à ce panel. Donc on est en train de vérifier la connexion de l'une d'entre elles qui vient de Namibie, mais je vais tout de suite passer la parole à Shagofa Ghafouri, qui est exilée politique afghane et qui est une féministe, une chercheuse sur le droit des femmes et une avocate, et qui va nous parler de la situation des femmes en Afghanistan. C'était évidemment absolument essentiel pour nous de pouvoir avoir ce temps-là également, puisque l'on sait que les femmes afghanes aujourd'hui sont en première ligne de cette lutte contre le fascisme et l'obscurantisme. Donc merci beaucoup, et Shagofa, je te laisse la parole.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if it's already...
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I think it's a very timely event, and it's a very timely moment to speak about feminist and resistance in Afghanistan, and considering the situation that is going on now, I think it's also important to give a picture from what is going on in the ground in Afghanistan. That is, of course, a bit more different than what has been discussed in the various panels. I was very impressed and also inspired by what has been discussed in the previous panel, and I must say that what I'm going to say is super different from what has been discussed, in the sense that I see that those efforts are already in a very advanced stage. When there are efforts for rights for abortion, when there are efforts for unpaid care, when these are the struggles and these are the movements and the efforts. But in Afghanistan, I'm gonna start from scratch. I'm gonna start from the fact that we had to fight for our identity. We had to fight for our existence, to be at least to be recognized as a single independent human being that has their own rights and has the let's say, that has the right to freedom and has the right to education and has the right to work. Currently, the situation in Afghanistan is that we are experiencing a rapidly growing humanitarian crisis that makes me think, okay, from where should I start? There are so many things destroyed. There are so many stories that I wish I could tell you, and there are so many lessons learned from what has been exercised in Afghanistan in the last 20 years, and what happened now. Let me start from the fact that I spent the first 3 years of my life under the first regime of Taliban. I was lucky enough not to remember anything of that darkness and ignorance, but a very inspiring discourse, and that was resistance. I grew up by seeing my mom advocating for the rights for education for girls. She opened up homeschooling centers for girls when the education was totally banned for girls. And then she started to go house to house to raise awareness about the rights for education for women. And that was in the moment that the education was totally banned. So I was growing up seeing all her efforts and hearing stories about how she put efforts for the rights for education for women. And that inspired me, and that made me think that I have to continue what she has started, and I have to, for example, put an effort from different angles to it to empower a lot of other women and to, let's say, to contribute to this movement. And there were so many others, let's say, strong and brave and passionate women that worked under a very challenging situation. So I was thinking that I'm lucky that the Taliban's regime was over, but still a lot of struggles were remaining. Although with the great support from the international community and thanks to all those efforts, the situation was much better than what was under the Taliban's government. But still, all the structure was there. The ideology of Talibanism, I think Taliban or ISIS or all other terrorist groups, more than a group and a formation, they are an ideology. And there is the possibility when they are not in the government and not in the power, their ideology is still in the society. So I started, and so many other girls from Afghanistan started from scratch. We fought for our identity. It might seem funny, but one of the greatest achievements for me was to graduate from the high school, or another was to start working in the society. While it was all male-dominated, everything was normalized. Of course, you are a woman. Of course, the first priority for you is to take care of the house chores, and you're very privileged if you have the right to go to a school or to be educated. And that's how I started social research when I was only 16 years old. I traveled to many insecure areas of Afghanistan. I interviewed dozens of women. I went to their houses. I experienced what they are going through, and I talked with them, and I documented what they are going through on the ground. While the overall image was seeming like, everything is fine. Like, the international community is there, the country is being democratized, and there is a lot of progress. Yes, there was a lot of progress, but still, there was so many things left, because the fundamentals, the structures, there was nothing that women could rely on. So let's say the movement of Afghanistan women, especially in the last 20 years, that I am product of that effort. It started all from the scratch. There are so many problems that I would love to talk about. For example, the problem of education, the problem of health service, right to work, right to the identity. But I might start from the education. Before 15th of August, before the fall of the Afghanistan government, there were 3.7 million children that were out of school. And imagine, after the fall of the government, this has been for sure multiplied. And now there is not only the worry that the girls and the most of areas, even boys, don't have access to education, but when Taliban propaganda machine came and say that, we opened a school for girls to go there, but they need to be accompanied by a man in order to have the right to go and study. So that makes it a lot more difficult. And beside this, of course, we don't know what will be taught inside that schools, what is the curriculum, and that's very important. So this is not only the challenge for Afghanistan women. As feminists, all of us, as those who work for women's rights, if one child in Afghanistan, if one girl in Afghanistan doesn't have access to education, it means that we can't celebrate our freedom. It means that we can't, if one girl in Afghanistan doesn't have an identity for themselves, it means that we can't celebrate our independence while we call ourselves feminists and human rights activists. I will go a bit informal to say about, for example, what happened during the pandemic. Of course, we were all surprised by what happened and taken by surprise that we all of a sudden had to sit inside our houses. We didn't have the right. Of course, there were a lot of restrictions to go out of the house or to do the normal routines. But for Afghan women, I could say they were quarantined again, because for them it was not the first time. So many of Afghanistan women, they had to sit inside the house, and the only things that they had access to was giving birth to children. Of course, they were forced to do their house chores or take care of whatever is going on there. So I think there are so many brave and strong and passionate women in Afghanistan that needs our support, needs the support of those who have a tribune, need the support of those who can raise the voices, and need the support of those who have the chance to actively work for the rights of the woman and for gender equality. And of course, I say what women are going through in Afghanistan right now at the moment, they are face to face standing against one of the most dangerous terrorist groups in the world that torture them, that imprison them and that doesn't give the right to them to be free, to be independent, and to be recognized as independent human beings. They are always seen as the people that should be trapped in the cage of dignity and honor, and should stay at home, and should, of course, be always relied on a man when it's for traveling or for education or for work or anything else. I think it's very important and timely to go more into detail for some solutions, because this is not something that it could be done inside Afghanistan, as there is no government now, but each and every of us, we have the position and we have the power. We are in that position and that power to contribute in some ways to empower the women inside Afghanistan, and more importantly, to save their lives. For example, one of the important things that could be done is to open some humanitarian corridor to save lives of the women activists that fought for their independence, and that they have been in the front line of the struggle for the. This is an international struggle for gender equality and for equal pay and so on. So this is one of the things that we could, in all ways, we could try to contribute to it. And the second way is that to support more women from Afghanistan, especially the activists and those who have been in the front line, to have the chance to study in Europe. I mean, they had, when they were under a very limiting and pressuring government, they tried all their best to fight for equality and gender equality and human rights and freedom and democracy. But imagine if they are given a tribune, if they are more empowered, if they have the right to study in an international context that would really empower them. And there are millions of these women. They are strong, they are very brave, they are educated, and they are very passionate about this. So we could all try to contribute in some ways to open grounds for women from Afghanistan to study in international universities and in different countries. And the last point of how it could be, how we could all contribute to make the situation better is to go in deep and how important is a federalism system in Afghanistan. Of course, we could see during the last 20 years or more that a centralized system in Afghanistan doesn't work, because there are so many diverse and different opinions and different ideologies, specifically toward women and different tribes and ethnicities that are in Afghanistan. These ethnicities, they couldn't support and enrich the culture of each other, but they each work in different ways and have their strong, different, diverse ideology. So it's very important to go in deep and see how a federalism system could help the whole situation in Afghanistan, and specifically the situation of women in Afghanistan when, for example, for giving them the context of their freedom and identity and the right to education and work. Also, the last point of how we could all contribute to the situation that is going on is that when the women from Afghanistan or out of Afghanistan, they are in Europe or they are in other countries, we try to in some way give them more support in order to bring them into the context and to make sure that they are not again marginalized in this society. For example, I was very young. I mean, I was not too young, but I was 19 years old when I came to Europe, and that was again when I realized how much effort, how much extra effort I had to put in Afghanistan to achieve something and to achieve my fundamental rights. And again, in Europe, I have to try multiple times to prove myself as a girl that came from a so-called developing country. So I was lucky that I was not going through all the chaos of the refugee system, but there are a lot of women that are going through that. They need our psychological support. They need the support to make them feel they are part of the society, because the world, Afghanistan is a different world than what is going on in Europe. And for someone that comes comes from that kind of patriarchy and male-dominated society, they really need our support to feel themselves included and to make sure that their creativity, their merit, and what they are able to is used in the society. So I think we should all raise our voices on behalf of those who are oppressed, and we should echo what they are going through. I think this is a historical moment to change the game, and this is the moment for us to stand for equality and justice in all its forms and shapes beyond all kind of borders. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this word, and I think you put the finger on a point which is essential as well for us. When we are saying feminism without borders, this means that we, as Europe, has a responsibility as well. And one of the responsibilities, of course, on the question of refugees. We cannot say that we are fighting against the Taliban if, in the same time, we are not welcoming in Europe with dignity and according to the Human Rights Convention, the person who are flying out of Afghanistan to protect themselves and their family. And there, I think that your fight, I mean, of course it is an horrible situation you are fighting, but in the same time, I have to say that the example of the Afghan woman in the past months and years, it's enormous for us, and it's really a source of inspiration as well. So thanks a lot again for this speech. And of course, this was not only a speech, this is a commitment as well, and we are committed to support you and to support your fight and the fight of the women of Afghanistan. And I think we can applaud you once again, actually, for this.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here.
It's a great honor as well for us to have you here, I have to say. Je vais maintenant repasser au français et pour vous dire que j'ai reçu des messages de notre intervenante qui venait de Namibie et qui est membre du parti SWAPO en Namibie. Malheureusement, il y a un déluge en ce moment en Namibie et donc du coup les problèmes de connexion sont extrêmement compliqués. Donc elle me dit qu'elle n'arrive pas à se connecter pour l'instant. Néanmoins, si elle y parvient avant la fin de cette session, on lui donnera évidemment la parole dès qu'elle nous parle. Donc Arélis, merci encore d'être parmi nous. Tu es députée du Parlement